Hello, and thanks for joining us on this journey through Matthew's Gospel. We're reading from the Word on Fire Bible with commentary from Bishop Robert Barron, who's the founder on Word on Fire Catholic Ministries. We may also hear from other church fathers. Do not judge so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. Why do we see the speck in our neighbour's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye? Or how can you say to your neighbour, let me take the speck out of your eye, while the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbour's eye. Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, or they will trample them underfoot and turn and maul you. Ask and it will be given you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks, and receives, and everyone who searches finds, and for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, will give a stone? Or if the child asks for a fish, will give a snake? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you. For this is the law and the prophets. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to destruction, and there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow, the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it. Beware of false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorns, or figs from thistles? In the same way, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will know them by their fruits. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. On that day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many deeds of power in your name? Then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Go away from me, you evildoers. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on rock. And everyone who bears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain fell, the floods came, the winds blew, and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. Now when Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were astounded at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as their scribes. And now we hear from Bishop Barron. In relation to verses 1 to 5. Instead of projecting violence and negativity onto another, Jesus is teaching his listeners to turn to the difficult, but ultimately soul-enlarging task of self-criticism and metanoia, going beyond the mind that you have. Rooted in the magnum of the great soul, secure in the unconditional love of the divine, one has the requisite courage to face the inner darkness and one is liberated from the hopeless pattern of casting blame and inventing scapegoats. But it is Jesus the judge who makes this possible, who through the power of his soul illumines the dark and unveils the game. And again, in relation to verses 7 to 11, Bishop Barron writes, "Faith is power, for it is a link to the reality of God, the power that made and sustains the cosmos. When we remain in the narrow confines of our perceptions, our thoughts, our hopes, we live in a very cramped way. To have faith is to live outside of the box, risking, venturing, believing the impossible. Sometimes the power of faith is manifested in spectacular and immediately obvious ways. There is a long tradition stretching back to Jesus himself and including many of the saints of faith healing. When someone consciously and confidently opens himself to God, acting as a kind of conduit, the divine energy can flow. There is also the power of prayer. When some people ask in a spirit of trust, really believing that what they are asking for will happen, it happens." St. John Chrysostom writes in relation to verse 28, "They were astonished most of all at his authority. Unlike Moses or the prophets, he did not speak always with reference to another. On the contrary, he indicates everywhere that he himself has the power of deciding. When setting forth his laws, for instance, his pattern is, 'You have heard that it was said, but I say to you.' And when he speaks of the judgment day, he speaks of himself as the judge, able to bestow both punishments and honours. Lest this should be thought boastful or arrogant, he does his works at the same time, showing his authority to heal, so that the people might not be perplexed in seeing him teach in this way." Thanks for listening to Chapter 7.